June 6, 1944. Allied forces launched the largest amphibious invasion in history as part of Operation Overlord. The objective was clear: establish a foothold in Nazi-occupied France and begin the liberation of Western Europe. Omaha Beach, assigned primarily to the U.S. 1st Infantry Division and elements of the 29th Infantry Division, was one of 5 landing zones along the Normandy coast. Omaha was not just another beach. It sat between the British beaches to the east and American positions to the west, making it essential for linking the entire invasion front. Failure here would split Allied forces and expose their flanks. The plan called for a coordinated assault, heavy aerial bombardment, followed by naval shelling, then amphibious landing supported by specialized armor. On paper, this sequence was designed to neutralize German defenses before infantry reached the shore. In reality, almost everything went wrong before the first soldier even stepped onto the sand. Before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy military history content like this. In the early hours of June 6th, soldiers aboard transport ships in the English Channel prepared for the assault. Most had been awake since midnight. Breakfast was issued around 3 to 4 o'clock. It was a standard army field meal: powdered eggs, bacon, bread, and coffee, but many soldiers couldn't eat. Seasickness was widespread due to rough waters, and anxiety was high. Some men vomited before even boarding their landing craft. The timing was critical. Infantry would land at approximately 6:30. Before that, Allied bombers were supposed to soften German defenses, followed by naval gunfire from battleships and cruisers. However, heavy cloud cover caused U.S. bombers to release their payloads too late. Most bombs landed inland, missing the German fortifications along the coast. Naval bombardment did hit the shoreline, but it was brief and insufficient to destroy reinforced bunkers. At the same time, amphibious DD tanks, designed to provide armored support, were launched too far from shore in rough seas. Of the 29 tanks launched in some sectors, only a handful made it to the beach. Many sank before ever reaching combat. Landing craft struggled with navigation. Strong currents pushed units east of their intended sectors, mixing companies and disrupting unit cohesion before the battle even began. By the time the first wave approached Omaha Beach, the plan was already breaking down. At approximately 6:30, the first wave reached the shoreline. The landing zones included sectors like Dog Green, Easy Red, and Fox Green. As landing craft ramps dropped, German defenses, largely intact, opened fire immediately. Machine guns, mortars, and artillery targeted the tightly packed troops as they attempted to disembark. In some cases, soldiers had to jump into water that was chest-deep or higher, weighed down by 30 to 40 kilograms of equipment. Many drowned before even reaching the beach. On Dog Green sector, Company A of the 116th Infantry Regiment suffered catastrophic losses. Within minutes, entire sections were wiped out. Some units took over 70% casualties in the first wave. The German defenses were positioned on elevated bluffs overlooking the beach, giving them clear lines of fire. Interlocking machine gun nests created overlapping kill zones. Every movement across the open sand was exposed. Engineers assigned to clear beach obstacles were also hit hard. Without cleared lanes, follow-up waves were forced into the same deadly zones. Within 10 minutes of landing, many units had lost their officers and NCOs. Command and control began to collapse almost immediately. By 6:40, the situation on Omaha Beach had reached a critical point. Surviving soldiers took cover behind whatever they could find: steel obstacles, corpses, shallow depressions in the sand, or the seawall at the base of the bluffs. Movement inland was nearly impossible under continuous fire. Units were no longer operating as cohesive formations. Soldiers from different companies and even different divisions were mixed together. Radios were lost or destroyed, and many officers had been killed. German defenses remained largely operational. Bunkers constructed with reinforced concrete continued firing with minimal damage from the earlier bombardment. The beach itself became congested. Follow-up waves kept landing into the same conditions, adding to the chaos and casualties. One critical issue was the failure to breach the beach exits. These were narrow draws through the bluffs that led inland. As long as German forces controlled them, the invasion could not progress. At this point, there was a real possibility that Omaha Beach would fail entirely. Some commanders considered halting further landings. Around 7 o'clock, the situation began to shift, not because of a coordinated plan, but due to small unit initiative. Individual soldiers and small groups started moving laterally across the beach, seeking weak points in the German defenses. Naval gunfire destroyers moved closer to shore than planned, providing more accurate support against specific targets. In several locations, soldiers began scaling the bluffs using natural cover such as draws, craters, and terrain irregularities. These movements were uncoordinated but effective. One key factor was the decentralization of command. With leadership disrupted, junior officers, sergeants, and even individual soldiers made independent decisions to advance. As these small groups reached the top of the bluffs, they attacked German positions from the flanks and rear areas that were less fortified. By approximately 7:30, the first limited breakthroughs had been achieved. These were not large-scale advances, but they were enough to begin weakening the German defensive network. The invasion at Omaha Beach had not failed, but it had come dangerously close. The first 30 minutes of the Omaha Beach landing, from 6:30 to 7 o'clock, were among the most critical moments of World War II. The original plan had collapsed before the infantry even reached shore. Bombardments missed their targets, armored support failed to arrive in sufficient numbers, and landing forces were disorganized. What followed was not a textbook amphibious assault, but a fight for survival. The outcome was determined not by large-scale coordination, but by small unit action, improvisation, and individual decision-making under extreme pressure. By the end of the day, Omaha Beach was secured. But that success was built on the actions taken during those first chaotic 30 minutes, when failure was a real and immediate possibility.